Welcome, everybody.
No, we're just waiting. As Joe said, welcome everybody. Good morning and welcome to the Retained Recruiter Show. My name is Jay.
And I'm Joe.
Great to meet you again, Joe. It's great that everybody can join us today on this live version, although you could be watching it back on replay. It's a bright Tuesday morning in the UK. I hope it's bright and sunny where you are. Certainly the outlook is there. So this is our second episode. We did one last week. And it's interesting. We had some comments that came back from last week, Joe, who said, who is this show targeted at? And it's quite easy and quite simple for me to sort of share with people. It's targeted at recruitment business owners, people who are looking to improve their business and do something different. Now, in our world, that means transitioning from the way they're doing it to a better way of doing it. And for us, that's moving businesses from a transactional, contingent CV supply service to a consultative, retained type of service. So that's where all of our focus is. And the people who make the decisions, those are normally the people who own businesses. Now, you may be listening and say, well, that's not me. Well, hopefully, if you are listening, we can give you some advice of you, your personal career, of course. But if you like what you see and think it'd be good for your firm, please do get in touch with the people further up the ladder and ask them to book a consultation with us. There'll be a link later on in the chat box. So, Joe, what are we going to be covering today?
So, we're covering three particular points, all about how to actually operate. So how to operate as a retained recruitment consultant or retained recruitment professional. So the first thing we're going to look at is top tips on how to increase your chances of success. The second thing we're going to look at is how to differentiate your deal structure, which I think is a really interesting point, actually. What is it that we give clients? How do they see the value of it? And how do we make it easier to close for us, but also for our clients? That's the second point. And then the third point is how to deliver in the most efficient and effective way. So again, we spoke last week a little bit about commerciality. We're going to bring that in as well, but we're going to talk about psychological contracting, a little bit about managing expectations as well. So if you're already doing retained, that's fantastic. Hopefully this is going to help to just refine and refresh and validate what you're doing. And if you're not doing retained, hopefully today's going to give you some inspiration and some ideas. It's not prescriptive, and it's only a 30-minute show, so we can't give you everything, but do feel free to pop some of your comments down, any questions you want us to answer. We're quite happy to just sit here and answer questions for the next 30 minutes, all retained recruitment related, of course. Stay on topic. But equally afterwards, do feel free to contact either myself or James if there's anything you want us to cover in one of these, but you don't want to put it in the public comment section. Quite happy to hear from you after this as well.
Yeah, we're easy to find on LinkedIn. And Joe, I've got to mention in my little intro there, in terms of when we started this off last week, we spoke to people about something called the Retained Recruiter Roadmap, and roadmap is an acronym for the elements. So last week we spoke about R, which is for ROI. You feel free to listen back on last week's episode. Operate. So in theory, we should be doing ADMAP, but we're going to talk about a little poll we did later on just before the end and share with you what we're going to be talking about next week.
Yeah, so brilliant.
To the first point then, how to increase your chance of success.
Yeah, good. So I think with this, it's about, as a business owner, thinking about what we can do to increase our chances of success. But success comes from client satisfaction. So I don't think as recruiters, we need to be thinking about what do we need to do to be more successful. I actually think we need to be thinking more about what do our clients want from us in order to feel as if they've got the right value. So my first point on this really is that as recruitment consultants and as business owners, we need to be solutions focused. So if you're going to increase your chances of success, what problems does a client have? Not just with getting CVs, that's about 1% of the overall attraction and selection and recruitment and retention process that a business has to have. But also, what solutions can we provide? What do we do that provides solutions to some of the biggest client problems that they've got around recruitment and retention? And starting to think from that point of view.
Joe, I think again, if I was listening in, I say, well, solutions, it's so easy. But I think what we really mean here is how can you differentiate your solution over somebody else? Because what we do, we don't want to talk about platitudes and the words. We want to say to people that you need to find a way to make yourself different. Because for a moment, think about this. Put yourself, and this is a really important thing that you should do, put yourself in the shoes of a client, and think about what am I saying? How different do I sound? Or probably how same do I sound? And that's when Joe's talking about solutions here, it's about trying to, obviously we've got to uncover what the challenges are with the client. We'll talk about that, of course. But what you do, what do you offer that's different? What are your USPs that are really going to sort of make you stand out? Because most people that Joe and I speak to don't have USPs, they just have SPs. They just, sales points or sales propositions that sound like everybody else's. So it really sort of mean that. Sorry, Joe, I didn't mean to go.
Exactly. No, it's great. And exactly what you said there, unique selling points, they're all the same. So it's not unique. You could be the best recruiter on the planet, but if your client's hearing the same thing as everybody else, the only thing they have to differentiate you on is cost. So when we complain that our clients are only ever interested in cost, that's probably our fault because we're not giving them anything else to compare against. So that's the first thing. The second thing is selling points. A selling point is what I want to sell. It's not what the client wants to buy. So again, I mean, I know, tomato and all that, but it shouldn't be about unique selling points. It shouldn't even be about key selling points. It should be about key buying points or key pain points. So again, just reversing our perspective and not just selling what we want to sell, selling what the client actually wants to buy. And if people,
isn't it?
Exactly. And most of us listening are going to have existing clients. One of the best ways to know what your clients need and want is ask your current clients. I'm pretty sure that none of us have ever given 100% perfect service. Just because you filled the vacancy, it doesn't mean that you've not left the client wanting, or there aren't things that you could improve for them. And it's not all about just filling the vacancy for a client, is it either, James? It's bigger than that.
I think that's a really good question. Again, we'll try and give people tips on here, but here's a question you can ask. And this is all about putting yourself in the mind of the client rather than the mind of the recruiter. And that question is, it starts about, what do you think my job is? What do you think my job is, Mr. Client or Mrs. Client? And the answer might be, well, your job is to find me candidates. Okay, so my job is just to find candidates. Okay. So if I can ask you, what's your job? Well, and they may say, well, my job is to hire somebody to fill the role, and hopefully with one of the candidates that you're putting in front of me. Okay, so my job's to find candidates, your job's to hire candidates. Is that it? Well, in very simple terms, maybe it is. Okay, but so if I place somebody with you and they leave after 3 or 6 months, how would you feel? Well, they're not going to say, I feel great about that. They say, well, I wouldn't be too happy with that. Okay, so if they left after 9 months, how would you feel? Well, still not great. So we're going to be talking about, people are going to stay with you for a year or more. Would that be fair? And they say, yeah, okay. So listen, my job isn't just about finding you candidates. It's about finding you candidates that stay for the medium to long term, who add value to your business. Go back to the ROI point we had last week. People are going to actually sort of make you the worthwhile investment. Because if you ask clients, what do you really dislike about recruiters? Well, the fact is they think we charge fees which are too high for doing very little work. Now, when we speak to recruiters, we go to, what's your process? Oh, I've got all these steps. And they outline 15, 20, 25 steps in their process to go out there, find, attract, identify, select, assess candidates and put them in front of clients. You say to a client, what does your recruiter do for you? Well, they find me 3 or 4 CVs. I think they'll dip into a database, send me 3 or 4 CVs. And for that, they want 15% of £50,000. Mm. No wonder you can't charge 25% fees if that's what the client perceives your service to be. So you've got to ask them. You've got to consult with them. This is the whole point. And I think the fear is that sometimes we can be a little bit too subservient to clients because we're scared of them. But at the end of the day, they're just people. Yeah. And if you ask them the right questions, they'll give you the right answer. From the right answer, you can then identify the solutions that you're trying to pull out.
Mm. Yeah, 100%. Again, it's all about talking to your clients, get feedback. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people know who use that famous phrase. What you said before is really interesting. I know there's a couple of people who are watching today, and I know I've had this conversation with them as well. What we sell is actually really difficult. It's a concept of something. We don't sell candidates. If we're going to start selling candidates, bits of paper to bits of paper, that's 10%. We're never going to be able to climb above that. It's a race to the bottom. What we sell is a concept of improvement, a concept of enablement, a concept of how to grow your business. And the service is actually unseen. It's sight unseen. It's one of the hardest things to sell because it's all in your head and you're just telling the client things that you're going to do for them. So next week, we're going to talk a lot about attracting clients, which we know is based on the poll that we've recently done, is one of the number one things that you guys want to know about. So we're going to concentrate on that next week. But attracting clients comes from having a really compelling proposition and productize what you do. You'll sit in a room. If it was a box of cornflakes, We know what's inside. What would you put on the outside to attract people to buy it? Think about all the things that you do for your clients and think about how you can productize them. Slight lead into iIntro here, because we have a fantastic platform, which I wish I'd have seen 15 years ago. But quite frankly, it allows you to show your clients what you do, and for the clients to be, it's a very, very transparent process for the clients to be involved as well. And that's a big difference, I think, because otherwise, if you're just selling a concept to someone, unless you've got really strong collateral, really strong productization, and you make it tangible, again, all you're really saying to a client is, look, trust me, I know what I'm doing. And therein lies the problem. They've never worked with you before. It's going to be hard for them to trust you.
It's always been the challenge of recruitment. It's an intangible service, and it's just trust me. And I think that's not good enough in today's world. Really, you've got to show clients what it is that you do and why you're different. And then that other thing that we sort of trot out: oh, I add value. Again, another platitude. What on earth does that mean? So you've actually got to demonstrate to your client what it is. It's now a good time to talk about 3 pivot points, Joe, do you think?
Yes. Yeah? Yes, absolutely. Great segue.
Let me share with you some of the things that we talk about in the Retained Recruiter Academy, part of the iIntro platform. We talk about helping you differentiate with 3 pivot points, and you can take these away. It's not necessarily purely related back to iIntro, but we do relate it into that side. And this is all about helping your client understand, that one of the most important things. I'll just summarise them first of all. It's all about time and money. Yeah? So it's all about saving them time, improving the quality of the people, and saving them money, ideally. So we talk about 3 pivot points in our business. And I'll give you ours. Yeah. So the first one we say to our clients is we reduce your commercial downtime. Now again, that's the statement. We have to expand on that. But what these pivot points are, or what we call pivot points, they give us the opportunity to embark upon a conversation. So when we say we're going to help you reduce commercial time, let me tell you what I mean by that. And this leads into a question. May I ask you, Mr. Client, have you ever interviewed somebody on the strength of their CV or resume and been disappointed when you met them face to face? That's a leading question, isn't it? Of course, because what happens to us as recruiters, never mind clients as hiring managers. But the answer is yes. How did you feel? Well, I felt like it was a waste of time. Why was it a waste of time? Because I'd allocated 45 minutes for that interview. Within 5 minutes, I'd known it was a dead interview. But I've got to go through the motions, professional, so it's time wasted. Okay, so if we could help you reduce that, the opportunity of that happening, would that be a good thing or a bad thing? That'd be a good thing. Okay, let me ask you another question, still on reducing commercial downtime. Have you ever hired somebody who left you within the first 12 months of employment? We sort of maybe touched on this a moment ago. So the answer again, unless they've just come down from the planet wherever, they have. Yes, of course. Okay. Again, how did you feel? And how did you feel towards the recruiter? Because they also somebody, it's going to be the recruiter found me a bad person. They don't say I hired a bad person. Now, of course, we'll come back to that later. So what we're saying is actually, we're going to show you. We're going to talk about that in subsequent weeks when we talk about pitching as well as the attraction that Joe spoke about. We're going to show you how we help clients reduce commercial time. So that's number one. And what we've done there is we've developed a conversation around things which are painful for clients because time is that irreplaceable commodity. Number 2 is we help you improve your new employee retention rates. Now, the only way you can help somebody improve their new employee retention rate, and the important word there was new employee retention, is to ask them what it is. So you can't improve something you don't know what it is. So you've got to ask questions. So how do you establish what their current retention rate is? Well, here's a simple question for you. Of the last 10 people you've hired, Mr. or Mrs. Client, how many made it to their first year anniversary? Yeah. Just get them to think about that for a moment. So of the last 10 people you've hired, how many have made it? And Joe and I can tell you that from our experience, you're going to get back probably 6 or 7, maybe 7 or 8. Yeah. Because one thing I learned in sales, rule number 1, all clients tell lies. So maybe they'll say 7 or 8, maybe even 9, but you're not going to get a 10 out of 10. Otherwise, you wouldn't be there because no client's talking to you because they think, oh, I'd love to talk to a recruiter today. They're talking to you because they have an issue or a challenge and something you've said or done in your marketing, in your attraction to get you in front of them has made them think, yes, this is for this person me. So once they've given you that 89%, now here's a question for you to ask yourself. Of the last 10 people you've placed, how many have still been in the role 1 year later? Now, you may not measure this, and it's one of these big value adds that you've got in your arsenal that you are not actually using. Mm-hmm. Demonstrate how powerful you are. So, again, when Joe and I speak to recruiters, a lot of them going to say 9 or 10. Well, let me tell you, 9 or 10 is better than 7 or 8. It's better than 8 or 9. So you're already better than your client, but you don't use that to your benefit. We're going to show you how when we pitch, how we're going to use that one. And the third one is where you say to client, I'm going to help you reduce your overall cost to hire. That's the pivot point. Now, that's saving them money. Now, what they heard me say was, I'm going to reduce my fees. Yeah. And as we'll show you in subsequent episodes of the Retained Recruiting Show, is we're going to show you how actually we're going to help you save money, which means I can charge you a higher recruitment fee. Yeah? And you'll willingly and gladly pay it. So those are the elements that we need to try and bring into the proposition when you're delivering service to the clients, that you say, this is what we can do for you, but you've got something to develop a conversation around. Now, that doesn't sound like the typical recruiter who walks in and says, tell me what type of person you're looking for. And I've had somebody with an extra, a couple of years less experience than the ideal of 5 years experience in this, that, would that be okay? You're not asking those banal questions. You're actually starting to get to the nub of the issue, that, where the problems are, those are the challenges. So that's what I think we need to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, once you start to get the answers, the questions, we will look at this as we go through the next 7,000 episodes of this that we're plugged in to do, providing the show doesn't get cancelled. We're at the new BBC 3. We're back. So we will go through these in more details, but James has just given some examples of the questions you can ask the clients in order to try and poke around into some of these pain points. So these are the solution points. Hopefully you can see them in the comments. I'll put them in there. So reduce commercial downtime, improve new employee retention rates, and reduce overall cost to hire. Of course, your fee is going to be higher, but then the upfront cost should always limit the long-term cost. So the upfront charge will always limit the long-term cost. There is always a cost implication of bad, ineffective recruitment process. And that's what we need our clients to see, is that technically our clients' recruitment processes are pretty broken. And unfortunately, we are the purveyors of doom when it comes to that, because we've allowed ourselves to sort of slip down into this transactional, contingent way of working. And as a recruiter, I think it's time that we sort of bang the drum for there has to be a better way. There has to be a better way for us, because nobody likes working 5 jobs just to fill 2, because that's equates to about 13 hours a week that you're probably never going to get back. I'd rather be in the spa for those 13 hours a week. So would James, I'm sure. At the same time. Yeah. But our clients don't want to spend all that time and all that money and all that effort recruiting the wrong people who leave, recruiting people who underperform, or recruiting badly and having to start the process all over again. So start thinking about those things. That is going to help you to increase your chances of success. It's not about what we sell, it's about what they want to buy. So start thinking about how you position yourself. The second one, I suppose, is really interesting. It's related to this. So it's how do you differentiate your deal structure? So differentiating yourself starts from how you proposition yourself and your value proposition and the perceived value that you give to a client. But also, I think the actual deal structure, James, is really important, because we can't go to a client thinking we're just asking for more money for nothing in return. There has to be a quid pro quo here, doesn't there? There has to be a win-win situation. So we talk a lot about creating deal toolkits or creating negotiation toolkits that mean that the more the client pays, the more they can clearly see they are getting for their business.
It comes down to that productization that you're talking about, Joe, because it's the visualization. People eat with their eyes. Yeah. And all they do is hear a recruiter come in and say, oh, I'm a really good recruiter. I've been in the industry 15 years. I know all of them. I know the candidate, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, because I might have a little choice, I might say, yeah, okay. But, when somebody comes along, and that's what we want you guys to think about, when somebody comes along with a proper proposition that clearly identifies why you're different, then all of a sudden you can say, right, this is what you get from me. Let's be honest. What do you get from every other recruiter? You get 4 or 5 CVs that are presented in this way or that way, and then you're left to your own devices, really, aren't you, to go out and do that. So what you're doing is a one-dimensional recruitment process. Yeah, and the one dimension is you're comparing a candidate CV to the client job description, and hallelujah, and this is still something that every recruiter does, including ourselves, by the way. When we get that, that's what we call the basic level. That's what we call one-dimensional recruitment. The reality is you've got to help the client make a more informed hiring decision. How do you do that? Well, you have a data-driven process. A data-driven process that adds value, and this is how you talk about trading up the service. In terms of you offer extra parts of the service. Now you might think, well, the client won't want them. Well, trust me, you're not asking the right questions. They don't know what they want because nobody's ever offered them something different. You're just running with the herd here. We're not talking about herd immunity. That's another conversation. We're actually saying sort of stand out from the crowd and show them why you're different. Now, does this mean you're going to win every pitch you go on? Of course not. Some people are only buying on price. They're the type of clients you want to ditch. You want to see them in your rear view mirror. The clients you want going forward are the people who are looking for some improvement. I was talking to one of our clients, Joe. Great story. And he had a client earlier on this year come to him and say, Chris, I want you to recruit these 6 people for me. You normally work with us at 20%, and you know what's coming now, don't you? But you get roles. I said, but on these 6 roles, I want to pay you 25%. And that's because he'd shown the different type of service, but also the client was quite canny and quite savvy to say, listen, the market's quite tough. I want you focused on my work. Now, not every client is going out there doing that type of thing. But what I'm saying is that you've got to find those clients who value what you do. If they're just treating you like a commodity because you're treating them like a commodity, well, you get what you reap what you sow on that one. But if you show them where you can add value, sorry to use that word, but actually show them how you differentiated your service, productize it, and show them what they can get for having different level of service, that's going to help them make a more informed decision. It's going to help them reduce commercial downtime, improve the employee retention rate, and reduce their overall cost to hire. Then their ears prick up and they want to listen to it. Again, we'll talk about that more on the thing. But yeah, so I think you've got to be able to find ways to show what you do. Yeah, not just say, I can find CVs.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when you're stating what your fee is, I mean, before you state what your fee is, you've always got to. I always say you've got to. Prevention is better than cure. There's no point telling what you're saying, what your fee is, and then trying to ramble on about what it is that you do, because that's sort of fee justification. Which, if you have to justify your fee, you're probably not worth it. It's like if you have to explain a joke, it probably wasn't funny. So everything that you do from the minute that you leave a footprint on this client, everything that you are doing until the point where you close for your fee, you are building a value, a perceived value proposition in that client's mind, so that by the time you finish telling them what you do and what problems you can solve and how you can help them, and then you ask that question, what are your current agencies doing to help you with this? And then you hear the faint sound of a penny dropping, because the client realizes, actually, yeah, you're right, maybe they haven't ever had this conversation with me. Suddenly, current agencies 15% and what you're talking about are starting to seem this clear blue sky between the two. And that's actually quite scary, because what you want, the client should be hiding under their chair by the time they ask you what your fee is, because you're starting to sound really expensive. And that's the point, you are going to be expensive, but you're reassuringly expensive, because you can either carry on. I know. Yeah. Tell us what the tagline, what famous beer that's the tagline for in the comments. But yeah, we are reassuringly expensive, or used to be. I don't know if it's still the same tagline.
Yeah,
no, I think it's something else.
People do pay for quality. It's not just about the cheapest wins. I say there are clients like that, but they're the wrong type of clients that you want to be looking for. But it's about, people will pay for it if they know what they're paying for. And our job as a consultative recruiter is to help the client understand what it is, the service they're getting, that what they're getting over and above what they get from, and that's where you create the clear blue day between you and the competition.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Right. Final piece. I think we've got about 8 minutes left. We don't want to get chopped off mid-sentence. So the final thing to talk about, really, because this is all well and good, but then people are saying, okay, how do I know all this. I know this, and I'm sat here and I'm going to burst into flames because I know it all. What I need to do is to get it out there. I need to get this message out there. You can be the best recruiter on the planet. I'm going to say something really boring, that the typical high D, high I on a disc, sort of in the back of my head, kind of goes boring when I say it. But our final point is about how to deliver in the most efficient and effective way. So we talked a little bit about, we've talked about adding value. The phrase of the day, and a good friend of mine, Ali Braid, says this all the time. I think she gets Bitcoin every time she says it. It has to be about consistency. It has to be about, we have to be consistent. You have to have a plan. You have to position yourself with the clear differentiators in the market. And then you have to have a consistent way of getting out there and wearing these new and existing and lapsed clients down over a period of time, but in a really nice way. We talk a lot about planning and positioning. Position yourself. So what is it that you do? What problems do you solve? What solutions can you advise clients on? And then how can you start to put that into really good marketing collateral to get out there and start to create awareness, start to create a little bit of pain awareness with potential clients, so you can then start to engage with them and then start to close them for business. So people aren't going to come to you just because they hear it in a dream that you're the best recruiter. You have to get out there. You've got to plan and you've got to position. And that comes from being super, super organized and super, super consistent. So I think, think about your attraction of clients as social media and sales and marketing. And those three elements, what's my plan going to be? And we work in 30-day sprints, don't we, James? Sort of 30 days method, message, and moment. So who are you sending to what and how and when? 30 days, review, start again.
I think, Joe, as we go to the final section as well, I mean, one of the pieces that we sometimes talk about is the expectation of clients in terms of your delivery, in terms of what it is that we do and how long it takes to recruit. Because, you know, if you ask the client, when would you like this person to start? The answer is tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, I said, today it's the 1st of February, isn't it? Today is the 1st of February. And if I was talking to a client today, I said, okay, when would you like somebody to start ideally? I said, well, as soon as possible. Well, what does that mean? And it might be that somebody's leaving. And you say, but it's then about setting expectations with the client to understand that the quality of service. You know, if you're providing a full service, the question is, do you just want the best available person, or do you want the best person to do the job? If they want the best available person, well, a contingent supply service might be their answer, because if they need somebody next week, that's the only way they're going to be interviewing tomorrow, is if somebody's pulled them out of a database, and it's whoever's available. Now, listen, when you've spent years building your database and cultivating your data, it may be very good. But actually, the service that we talk to clients about is it's about finding the best person for the job, and we need to search for them. Now, you may not understand this, Mr. and Mrs. Client, but for us to search, we need 2 to 3 weeks, whatever your timeline is. It's not 1 to 2 days. That's a database search, yeah? But when you do a retained search to find the best person for the client, who's going to stay with them for the medium to long term and give them the return on investment they sought, they will seek, then the reality is, you say, that's how long it takes me to do that. So here we sit on the 1st of February, you know, with the best one in the world. The reality is, by the time I've actually prepared my shortlist for you in the way that I'm going to share you about how we deliver it, not just a CV, we're going to give you multiple layers of scientific and objective assessment to help you make a more informed hiring decision. That's going to take me 2 to 3 weeks. Let's just call it 3 weeks for the purpose of this conversation today, Joe. So that takes us to Monday the 21st or the 21st of February. And then I said to the client, so are you available the 21st of February, you know, that week to interview? Their next answer is going to be yes. And then say, is there anything else that could get in the way of that? Now, for those of you in the UK, that's around half-term week, yeah? And that means lots of people go on holiday, or, you know, because holidays are opening up again, of course. So they might be skiing. So it might not be. But let's imagine they could say, okay, so you can do your first interviews week commence 21st. Fantastic. Okay. Now, how many interview stages do you have? Is it 2 or 3? Just 2. Okay. So second interviews, realistically, week commencing 21st. February or in that week. Is that okay? Who's required for those interviews? Is it your MD, the CEO, HRD, whoever it happens to be? Okay, are they available as well? So put that down in the diary. So start to plan it. So say, okay, so realistically, by the first week in March, we might be at the stage of an offer. First week in March, yeah. So let's say the 3rd or 4th of March. The 4th of March to Friday. So the 4th of March to 2022 is Friday. So if you get the offer out by then, and somebody offers accepts the following week, and they're on a minimum of 4 weeks' notice, a month's notice in the UK, could be 3 months. The earliest you're going to get somebody starting is the middle of March, not middle of March, middle of April, which could even be May or June, depending on the seniority of the position. Is that what you're expecting? And here we are on the 1st of February, we're talking about May or June. And clients don't have that expectation. They don't understand that. And that's what you have. Your job is to consult with them, say, listen, this is the process. I'm going to manage you through the process. Yeah, I'm going to take you through. I'm going to keep you informed week by week. You know how my search is progressing. And then we'll go to something we'll talk later on about a candidate reveal. In terms, we'll reveal the shortlist to you and share with you the information to help you make a more informed hiring decision. But your interview process, that's how long it takes. And if nobody's actually said that to them, they just think I'm going to be recruiting in the next couple of weeks. Now, that's obviously not really going to happen that particular way. So you do have to share with them that transparency of how long a good search takes. Not just to win the business. Say, oh yeah, I'll get you a shortlist. Oh, today's Tuesday. I'll get it to you by Friday. Yes, you can get a database search. You can go through your own database or go on LinkedIn or do whatever you do to find out. But actually, do a full search takes time.
Yeah,
I just appreciate that.
I agree, and also I don't think that clients particularly know what it is that we do, or they don't know how hard we're working. So when we've gone away, they just assume that we've gone, we're going doing something else. So I think you have to show you're working. You've got to show clients how hard you're working. You've got to set those expectations at the beginning. And whenever you're delivering on something like this, you have to take control. You have to take control of it and see it like a project. This is a project. It's got an end date. You always have to start with the end in mind, work back from there. Who's going to do what and when and how, and when am I going to update you? And what am I doing when I'm not with you, Mr. Client? Because you want to make sure that by the end of the process, they can see everything that you've done for them, not just that one CV. They need to have seen the whole process.
And that's where you add value. That's where you've actually added value. The client sees what you do and you've justified why you're going to charge what you're going to charge. And we're going to talk in subsequent episodes about how you can charge more and how clients will pay you more. That's really important. And how you sort of deliver that through. Now, as we started off today, I said, this episode, this series is focused on, the Retained Recruiter show is focused on business owners, and if you want to actually sort of get some more advice from us on how we can help you deliver some of this, then please do book a consultation with us. But today was episode 2, Joe. We're done.
We are.
listening. We'll be talking next week. We think it's going to be about attracting clients and probably candidates with our roadmap, but we're going to look at the results of the survey. So it could also be about pitching. But attraction or pitching, they're coming up, both come up in the next 2 weeks. So look forward to seeing you back next week. Thanks for joining us today. So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me. Thanks for watching. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.